What's up, my friends? Welcome to the Live Wide Open podcast. I'm your host, Randy B. Ramirez, also known as Wide Open Randy, and I'm here to serve anyone who's looking to level up from their current situation. This show is dedicated to helping raise the bar for all the motorsport enthusiasts out there, those who want more out of life, those who want to do more, those who want to be more, those who love the thrill, the joy, and the connection of what these high performance engines bring into our lives. Because holding it wide open is just what we do. Being a good freaking person is who we are, and living our lives to the fullest is the lifestyle that we choose. So today we're going to be talking about a serious problem that a lot of us have. Like, and I'm going to go as far as saying that it's a total addiction that a lot of us have. Like, and quite frankly, like, it's an addiction that I never planned to get over. Like, I never wanted to go away. I'm never going to work on eliminating this addiction. In fact, it's an addiction that I want to continue feeding, and it's an addiction that I want to continue having more of in my life. Like, this addiction that I'm talking about is it's a force induction addiction. Like, and like everything that I drive, it needs to be force fed so that it can make way more power than how it does in its naturally aspirated form. Like my rides, man, I need to be force fed. Like that's what it boils down to. Once you become a fan, or once you ride in something that is forced induction, that is force fed, you will start to realize that why would anyone want to freaking drive anything that's naturally aspirated? Like stock, a car that is completely stock is boring as fuck. And then you add a car that is stock, but then it is also only naturally aspirated. That shit fucking sucks even more. Like, and so when I was brainstorming like for ideas of today's podcast episode, like man, I was thinking to myself, like man, what is something that genuinely puts an ear to ear smile on a gearhead's face? Like like what is something that we all love, but that not everyone has out there, right? Like what is something that those that don't have it want it? And then it hit me. I was like, bro, force induction, of course. Like that shit is amazing. And those that have been in rides that have forced induction know how truly amazing it is. Like whether it's nitrous oxide, whether it's a supercharger, or whether if it's a turbocharger, like if you have been in a ride with one of these three, and sometimes you will have supercharger with nitrous, sometimes you will have a turbocharger with nitrous, and that takes it to a whole new level. But if you know, if you have been in a ride with either of them, you know how addicting it can really be. Like, and I feel like many of us, we start down the path of like of the nitrous, right? and and I feel like the reason why a lot of us start down this path of the nitrous oxide, of the NOS, of the NOS, or whatever you want to call it, is because up front it really is kind of like, out of the three, the one that is kind of more affordable up front. Like dollar per horsepower wise, it's hard to beat with an upfront cost. It really is. And it's way easier to install versus a supercharger, or a turbocharger. Like nitrous oxide, um, they sell a lot of plug and play kits, and as far as dollar per horsepower wise, with an upfront cost, it's really pocket friendly. It really is. But the problem is that nitrous oxide, NOS, whatever you want to call it, this shit runs out. Like, and then once that bottle becomes empty, the fun goes away. Like, and that sucks. Like, it really does. I remember like back when my Camaro SS, like when I had that on spray, it was heads, cam, and nitrous. Um, this was before I went turbo. And I would drive around always. I always had two bottles in my car. Um, and the reason why I had two bottles in my car was because the first one wouldn't last too long. Like it would always run out after a couple hits. And once it runs out, the fucking fun is over, bro. And so that's why I would always drive around with two bottles, because this shit goes fast. Like if you have a decent nitrous shot in your car, like 200 plus, maybe something around there, like that bottle won't last multiple hits. It'll last maybe two good hits, maybe. If you have like 100 shot, that will last you a lot more. But 200 shot plus, it's going to be, depending on your bottle size, it's going to be only a couple hits, right? And so I remember back then, I was working in construction. Well, I would get to the job site at like 6 a.m. And to get to the job site at 6 a.m., it means that I was driving on the highway like somewhere around 5-ish in the morning, because typically my job site was about 45 minutes out from my house. So I was on the road early, like 5:15, something like that. And around those times on the highway, it wasn't too busy. There weren't too many fucking cars on the road. Um, so of course, me being wide open Randy, I always get my morning dose of that force induction hit. Like, man, I would spray my freaking Camaro like almost every single day. Like, and I'm not kidding when I'm telling you that it's fucking addicting, because it really is. It's so much fucking fun, especially when the nitrous turns on, like, and you have like a big shot, like you feel that initial torque hit when it turns on, like it's fucking amazing. But the problem is that it's a fucking amazing until it runs out. Like, it's so much fun until the bottle becomes empty. It's so much fun until the bottle is cold, or you don't have a warmer, or it runs out, because it runs out so fast, especially if you use it a lot, right? And so I feel like people that go through this route, like, you know, that same experience that I just mentioned that I went through, like they come to a fork in the road, you know, and they have to make a decision, like, not because they have to, but truly because we want to, because we start like really feeding into this addiction, and we want more of it, and we're getting tired of it running out. Like, that's what happened to me, and that's what I've seen that happen to several of my friends. And so we start to think, man, we're like, man, am I going to install a supercharger, or am I going to install a turbocharger? Like, and it really boils down to that. And then, you know, like for me, I had, you know, I chose a turbocharger, and then I still had my nitro skid, and then I sprayed the Camaro on top of the turbocharger, and you know, if that was actually very rowdy, and a lot of people spray on top of the supercharger, and that becomes even more rowdy too, because the torque is out of hand. Um, but like I had mentioned a little bit ago, you know, the nitrous, it really has that affordable upfront cost. Out of the three, it's the most affordable upfront. Like and it's the easiest to install. It really is. But the problem is that once you start to add up all these bottle refills, like especially if you're someone who uses it a lot, like I was using that thing on a daily basis. Every morning I would spray my Camaro, because I wanted to be in a good mood. I wanted to get to work happy, man. I wanted to you put that ear to ear smile on my face, because I genuinely fucking love the horsepower. Like, I really do. But once you add up all these bottle refills, if you do 2 bottles of I was refilling at least twice a week, um, times 2 bottles, the shit adds up fast. And boy, it really does add up fast. Like, it really does. And so, whether you are supercharger or a turbocharger type of guy, like, it really depends. And ladies too. Like, I want to put that out there, because there's a lot of ladies that are into this too. But whether if you're a supercharger or a turbocharger type of person, it really depends on your style, right? And like they say, and I've kind of researched this a lot, and I've just been in, like, you know, the scene, and that for heavier vehicles, typically like trucks or SUVs, things like that, they say that a supercharger, it really is more beneficial to you, because what they do is that they produce a lot of initial torque. So that's good, is because it gets the vehicle moving very quickly. Um, like, you know, a lot of like cars that you buy off the showroom, like let's say a TRX, which now they're discontinued, but supercharged. All the Hellcat platforms are supercharged. You get um, a Trackhawk, which that's actually part of the Hellcat platform, that comes supercharged. Um, but from the factory, a lot of cars come supercharged. You also have turbocharged cars, and those are fun too. And in my opinion, are more fun, right? And in my opinion, truthfully, I'm here to tell you how I feel. Is I think that a turbocharger is 100% of the time the way that you should go. Like, despite you having a heavy vehicle, like, I still think you should still go with a turbocharger. And the reason really why I always lean towards a turbocharger versus a supercharger, even though the supercharger makes that cool whine, and depending on the type of supercharger that you'll get, it has a lot of like emotional sounds when it's idling. Like, if you get a centrifugal type of supercharger, thing is whistling while it's idling. Um, And then the top mounted supercharger, that thing whines like a cat. It sounds really cool. And the turbocharger sounds like a jet plane, it's sucking in so much air. And it really just depends on what you want, right? But the reason why I say really is that I always prefer a turbocharger 100% of the time is because of the adjustability. Like you see, like with a supercharger, once you install a supercharger, the way that they work is that the boost, the PSI that you run on that supercharger is really determined by what size pulley that you install on your supercharger. And so once you install that pulley, it's mechanically fastened, and then we got the belt around and it's driven by the crank. Once you install that, it's set to that specific setting. So whatever pulley size generates that type of boost that you're looking for, it's going to stay on that setting. And yeah, you could change that setting if you want, but you're not going to be able to do it on the fly. Like it's going to require some tools. It's going to require for you to have a different belt. It's going to require for you to have, somewhere so that you can remove the old pulley and put the new pulley on and swap the belt, and then you have a different boost setting, aka you'd have a different horsepower setting, right? And so like if you have a daily driver type of vehicle, like you're always going to be driving around on that same boost setting that you set it at, that same pulley that you pick. It's always going to be driving around at that same setting. And so if you tuned your supercharger for whatever vehicle you have it on, if you're like someone that's probably like me that would have it tuned on like kill mode, just because you only have that one setting, well, whether it's rain or shine outside, like that's the setting that it's always going to be on. And when it's wet out, that shit can get very sketchy very quickly. And you can actually, because it produces so much torque so instantly, it could catch you like off guard, man. And if you're not quick with the reactions, it could lead into a crash. And so to a certain extent, it can be safe, especially if you're running like a sticky tire because you're always on that kill mode setting. It's not going to be very beneficial for you to be driving something like that every day on kill mode, right? And so let's say that you go the other route and you install like a bigger pulley, because with the supercharger, the smaller pulley makes it spin faster, which produces more boost. But the bigger pulley that you put on the supercharger, the less boost it will create because it's the less that it's spinning the supercharger. But let's say like you install like a mild or a bigger pulley, depending if you want to go mild or low boost setting. Whatever you install it, that's where it's going to stay. And so if you want to go race for let's say like a night or a Friday night, if you want to go to the track or whatever, you're going to have to do some mechanical work so that you can change out that pulley and so that you can gain more boost, aka gain more horsepower, right? And so that's not something that you're going to be able to do on the fly. You're going to need some tools, you're going to need it from a belt, and you're not going to be able to do it while the vehicle is hot, typically, because it's going to take some mechanical work, right? Now, on the other side, with a turbocharger, this is what I really, really, really love about a turbocharger, is that when you have a turbocharger and you install an electronic boost controller, like this shit gives you the ability to control your boost settings with a click of the button, like from inside your car. So like you could go from the lowest setting to your on kill mode setting with just clicking the button. On my truck, for example, I have two buttons. I have up and down setting. Some people just have one button. It cycles through the settings. And it really is however you end up wiring your electronic boost controller, right? And so the cool part is that you don't always have to drive on kill mode all the time. Like it gives you the availability to pick whatever setting you want. And you also definitely don't have to always have it on that lower, more economical setting because you want to enjoy your ride for daily use, right? It gives you the adjustability to pick whatever you want off of the click of a button. And so I think that it's very cool because depending where you're at, where you're going, who pulls up next to you, with that click of a button, you could go from low to high boost setting, right? And so, for example, like I mentioned that in my Silverado, I have two buttons, and it goes from, I can cycle through the button. I could go up, 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 up. I could go down, 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 whatever I want. And so, like the lowest number that I have on the Silverado is like somewhere around 7 psi, and that's probably around like 500-ish horsepower, something like that. I've never really dynoed it, but I'm going just off basic calculations on the low boost setting. And When it's raining, I always drive it on the low setting. Spins tire very easily. It's kind of boring on the low PSI setting when it's dry outside, and I hardly ever drive it on the lowest PSI setting unless it's wet outside. But it gives me really the adaptability to put it on that setting for when it's wet outside, right? With a click of the button, I go to medium boost from inside the ride, from inside the car, the truck. Don't have to go and do no mechanical adjustments, no nothing. It's just with a click of a button, almost instantly, right? And you can go to a medium boost setting, and you could go to any setting that you adjust it to, but mine specifically, medium boost is kind of like 14 psi, something around like that, and that puts the truck somewhere around 600 horsepower range. So look, I'm already going from 500, I'm going to the 600 horsepower range, right? And then if I want to go to the next setting, it goes to high boost setting, and I have mine personally setting at like around 20 psi, and that truck really starts to wake up at the 20 psi setting. I typically drive it everywhere on the 14 psi setting unless it's raining. 14 psi is pretty good. Spins tire, gets sideways, it does the thing. It's a heavy truck, so it's still not that fast at that setting, but it's super fun on that setting, right? But then when you put on the 20 psi, the high boost setting, it really wakes the truck up. And it's somewhere in that setting, it has to be making somewhere around 700-ish horsepower or something like that. Never really dynoed it, but again, I'm going based on calculations and based on what this setup made on my turbo Camaro, which was originally what the first turbo vehicle that I built. And it was all based off the turbo Silverado that I have now that I'm talking about, which this was before it was someone else's, and it was a way more mild setup than what I built it on, right? And then for those rare race occasions, like when I really want to push the limits on the truck, on the engine, like, you know, those instances when like that 20 psi setting wasn't enough to get yourself that win, or to you run into a faster car and you're like, oh man, and they beat you, you know, because there's always someone faster out there, but if they didn't beat you by that much and you're like, oh, I think I can get this guy, I typically will say something like, hey man, I spun really bad, like, would you mind giving me another shot? Like, I think I won't be able to spin this next time. And really what I was just messing around, and I always tell them at the end, but it gives me the opportunity to hit the next setting, and I put it on the kill mode, and that raises it another 5 psi, and it gives it a total of 25 psi setting. 20 psi of boost, right? And that has to be somewhere between 8 and 900 horsepower range. And when I put it on that, man, that's when the truck really gets rowdy. Like, it's a completely different animal from the first boost setting, 7-ish to 25 psi-ish, something like that. It becomes a fucking different animal. Like, and the truck has a small turbo for the type engine that it has. Like, you tell a lot of like the Honda guys are like, oh, 76, 75 millimeter, like, man, that's a big turbo, but it really isn't for a V8. And the reason why I installed such a small turbo for a V8, remember we're talking about for displacement, a turbo flows exhaust flow. It gets spun by the exhaust, and so if you put a smaller turbo, it wakes up really fast, but then it chokes up as the RPM increases because it can't flow that much exhaust. So I did this on purpose because I wanted a really responsive truck. And so, yes, if I put a bigger turbo, my truck can make a lot more horsepower, definitely could pass the 1,000 horsepower range, but I really don't want to do that. Like, at least not right now. Like, because my truck is my daily driver. Like, and I never really intended for it to be the fastest truck out there. And I truly feel like it will never be the fastest truck out there. There's always going to be someone out there who's going to be faster than you. And so that's not my intention with the truck. I built it to have fun. Like, I built it to be able to enjoy this forced induction addiction that I have, while still being able to load my motorcycle in the back and go to the stunt spot. Or if I need to haul some things around the house, throw it in the bed of the truck and go haul whatever I need to haul. Or if I want to pull a trailer with it, I load a trailer to the back onto the hitch and we ride and we pull a trailer. And eventually I'm gonna be pulling my turbo Camaro with my turbo Silverado. That was the whole deal when I first started with this. Or if I want to take the truck in some out of town road trips, like I've already have on multiple occasions, like, I go and I do it. It's reliable enough to go do all this stuff. Like, just recently, maybe a couple of months back, I went and I took the truck on the SIP week event. You know, it was a 1,300 mile plus road trip from Miami all the way to Georgia, and then we went back. That was definitely a blast. Like, and it was such a good time And the coolest part is that I didn't always have to be on kill mode. Like driving on the highway, I was like lowest setting just to consume gas, to be not consume so much gas, right? Still gonna consume gas because I didn't build it to save gas. I built it to give me some smiles per gallon, I always say. But the truck is genuinely a blast to drive. It really is. And it's so freaking glad. Like I'm so freaking glad that I decided to build that truck um, because it's made me happy. Yeah, I've had a lot of like learning curve with that truck, and it's probably as fast as my turbo Camaro used to be. Difference is just that it's a lot more reliable, and it weighs like almost 2,000 pounds more than what my Camaro used to weigh, and it's just as fast. So super happy with that build. Always recommend people to to feed their force induction addiction that we all have as gearheads, right? And so my question for you guys is which one out of the three works best for you, my friends? Like, is it gonna be nitrous oxide? Is it gonna be a supercharger? Or will it be a turbocharger? Or maybe it'll be a supercharger and nitrous. Maybe it'll be a turbocharger and nitrous. Like it really depends on what benefits you, like either one or the other, or a mixture of both, or some you even see some crazy setups that have a mixture of all three. Like whatever it is for your specific use, like that's what it's gonna work, right? And all I know is that if you want that ear to ear smile, like if you want to laugh and if you want to enjoy your ride, like if you were this little kid at the fair on this freaking roller coaster rides, like yeah, like man, I'm not even over exaggerating, like this is what the joy brings to me. Like, you know, if you want to make way more power than freaking how these vehicles come with stock, then my friends, dive into this force induction addiction that all of us gearheads love so much because it will truly make you happy. It really will. So I'm driving the checkered flag deep into the ground, and I'm calling out all the motorsport enthusiasts who want to improve their situation. Let's break free from all the shit that's been holding us back, and let's prove to the world that we're truly some badass motherfuckers. Those of you who made it to the end of the episode, I want to say that you got yourself a win, and I truly appreciate you for investing your valuable time into the Live Wide Open podcast. This movement is called Live Your Life Wide Open, and helping others improve is the mission that God has tasked us with. We are driven individuals working on breaking the freaking stereotype and becoming the best that we can be. Join me on this journey while we help as many motorsport enthusiasts as possible to create the best lives that we can imagine. Yo, and if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for, my friends? Go ahead and smash that subscribe button so that you never miss another episode. You can follow me on my Instagram. My handle is WideOpenRandy. And if you felt any connection to today's message, man, I genuinely ask that you please share this on your stories, because those are the actions that help us, you know, spread the message. Those are the actions that help more people see the show. Those are the actions that help more people just learn about what we're doing, about our movement, about helping others improve. I'll catch you guys on the next episode, but till then, live your life wide open, my friends. Peace.